Hey, Steve Mignani here doing the Junkyard Call at Berniston Auto Wrecking in Berniston, Massachusetts with a 1967 Chrysler 300 two-door fastback. Now, we all remember 1955, the Chrysler C300 with 300 horsepower, 331 cubic inches, began the letter car dynasty, which went all the way through 1965 with the 300L. Well, we got to remember too, in 1962, Chrysler kind of de-watered the 300 legacy with the 300 Sport. The letter cars continued, but the Sport model was basically the 300 Flair without the 300's heavy-duty suspension and big engine. But that changed in 1967. Whenever you saw Chrysler 300, you knew it had a 440 cubic inch engine under the hood. And that's what we have right here. Now in 66 and earlier, 383 two-barrel was the base engine. But again, for 67 and 68, the 440 four-barrel was standard equipment on every single one of those 21,894 Chrysler 300. That's a lot of 440s, and we'll get to that on this one here. Now the beauty part is that the 300 was also available as a four-door and as a convertible, but the fastback two-door was actually the most popular body. In fact, over half of those 21,894 cars, or 11,556, 67 300s were fastback two-doors like this. Now, the one thing about the 300 was that it used the Newport's rear quarter panels, but we can see right here, this die-cast metal end cap actually allowed Chrysler to use the Newport's quarter, but give it a whole different look with this add-on waterfall effect seen only on 300. But again, here's the dividing line, and this is a die-cast metal part right here. It never will rust, because again, it's a metal that doesn't really have any iron content. Also, the 300 got this waterfall-style deck lid, and there's 300, but we won't see any 300B, C, D, nothing like that. No more letter cars after 1965. So, but again, Chrysler 300 means 440 in 67, 8, 9, and 70. Now this one has a single exhaust pipe, and we'll get to that in a second. There were two versions of the 440 in 1967, and we'll get to that in a second. But one thing cool here is the Duddy Ford of Westboro dealer emblem right there. Now, it was a thing back in the day. Dealerships would actually drill holes in your car and either screw or rivet their emblem to basically to advertise their dealership. A lot of people said, I don't want that in my car because drilling a hole through the paint is a good way to invite some rust. And so they usually went to a stick-on or a sticker after the era of the die-cast drill type. But there's one right there. Now, Duddy Ford was a powerhouse in New England. Not sure if they're still around, but this was undoubtedly sold on their used car lot because this is a Chrysler, not a Ford. And Duddy was a Ford dealership for the most part back in that period of time. But the beautiful thing about the 67 is the fastback roof right here. It's very graceful, and unlike the AMC Marlin and even the Dodge Charger, which kind of look like afterthoughts, this is a very nicely integrated design. And again, this period was Elwood Engel's styling period when he basically came from Lincoln, Mercury, and Ford and brought, well, some taste and some reserve back to Chrysler after Virgil Exner kind of went a little crazy. But again, this is beautiful, and again, Elwood Engel we can thank for these scalloped sides and very graceful. It's a full-size car, and again, these wheel fender skirts right here on the back, these come off, change the tire, but they add a sense of elegance to the car, and just really, really nice stuff. Okay, inside we have got the standard bench seat. Got some Hornets here too, but if we don't piss them off, they won't piss us off, so that's cool. But inside, this is the standard bench seat seen on 300s. You could get buckets, and of course, this has the torque flight up on the column. There was also a possible center console, and you know, just a luxurious interior. Again, buckets would have made this thing a little more interesting, but again, the VIN is there on the A pillar right there, and we see a letter K in the 5th spot on this one. So that tells us it has the base 350 horse 440. If we see an L, that would be the TNT 440 with 375 horsepower, a hotter cam, and again, dual exhaust, and high flow exhaust manifolds. Okay, let's close that door and leave those guys in there. Let's see what else we can learn. Now, this is a road test magazine here from July of 1966. Now, here's the deal. This has something inside called the Chrysler 300X. Is it a letter car? Well, yes and no. Let's take a peek at it. Now, remember, too, of course, this is a 1966 magazine, so that is an earlier generation. But if you look at that car, that's the 300X show car, and look how the passenger is facing backwards. What? And if you come down to the bottom right, we'll see again that lady is facing backwards. Yes, that was part of the 300X's new innovation, as were on the bottom left, the hand grip steering, which is kind of a bizarre notion. And again, the 300X never made production, but it just shows that Chrysler was often showing dream cars to the public and the press to gauge response. But again, the 300 name would kind of come back in 1970 with the 300 Hearst. 300H you might call it, but it was actually not quite a letter car. But of course, now we know that the 300 is alive and well with the rear-wheel drive Hemis. But okay, let's get under that hood and see if that 440 is here. And let's lift it up here. Bummer. Okay, well, here's the thing. No 440 ever had a 2-barrel carburetor. There were always 4 barrels. This is a 2-barrel, and beyond that, I don't see the bump here that would indicate this being a raised deck 413, 426, 440. So this is somebody's 383 swap. So somebody robbed the 440, which actually was not that uncommon. Remember, every one of those 21,894 67 Chrysler 300s had a 440. So junkyard and used car people would often grab the 440, put it in a Dart or a Roadrunner 383 and bring it up. But this one here has had its heart taken, unfortunately. It does have power brakes up front, which were discs as an option in 67, third year actually, 65, 67. So 65 was the first year for optional discs on the full-size C-bodies, but we have power brakes on this one. And something kind of cool is this thing right here, the CertiCard. Now, the Chrysler CertiCard, this deal right here, a lot of folks don't know what it is, but here's the plastic holder. Do not remove, for dealer use only. Well, let's break the law and remove this thing. And this is a metal, stainless steel, little ID thing. It's CertiCard, and this was sold to Stephen F. somebody of 50 Franklin Street in Worcester, Massachusetts, and it gives the VIN and certain major options. And again, this is the CertiCard, something that people love to find in their Hemi cars, but again, also found in Dodge Darts and, yeah, Chrysler 300s like this one. Now, other items that are notable are the lack of air conditioning on this one. You know, a luxury car like a 300 more often than not had AC, but it was about a $700 option, so we don't have it here. It does have the heater, of course. This is a Massachusetts car, sold new in Worcester, Mass, perhaps from Bancroft Chrysler Plymouth. Across from the Worcester Library, in fact. And in fact, Bancroft Chrysler Plymouth was also a DeLorean dealer in 1979, 80, 81. And I remember going by there when I was like, I don't know, 15, 16, and seeing DeLoreans inside of Bancroft Chrysler Plymouth, where this car was sold new. But that's the story of the mighty Chrysler 300, the beautiful brute, which became, well, a little watered down after 62 in non-letter form. But again, when you get into 67, 8, 9, and even 70, anytime you see a 300 on the body, you're looking at a 440 under the hood. And again, these are magnets for hot rodders like me to grab that 440, put it in a Dart or a Colt or whatever, or a Duster. So it's not uncommon to see that engine robbed, and that's the case here. But again, if you like this car, there's a lot more here on the Junkyard Crawl. And be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, do all that good stuff, and we'll be back with a lot more tomorrow.